COC Gamers, I'm Civil Warrior, and welcome to a movie review for Avengers Endgame. Now, I actually saw Avengers Endgame on Saturday. I would have seen it on Friday, which was opening day, but tickets are sold out everywhere, and that just proves how good of a movie this was. And in my opinion, it was absolutely fantastic. So if you have not gone to see Avengers Endgame, go and see it as soon as possible, because if you're a Marvel fan or any superhero fan, it will be fantastic. So, yeah, there's gonna be spoilers in this video, so we're just gonna do a full movie review. There will be spoilers, so if you do not want spoilers, and I don't want people getting upset at me if I spoil something, but that technically wouldn't be my fault, because you've been warned. So if you have been, I keep stuttering for no reason because I'm so nervous of how awesome. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. It was so good. I was just speechless to talk about. But yeah, there is going to be spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, go ahead and click off the video now. I'll put it in the title as well, so therefore people know not even to click on the video if you have not seen the movie. But, yeah, it was 3 hours long and had a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. So the 96% just proves how good this movie was, and how much action and empathy you had for all the characters throughout the movie. But, yeah, 3 hours long, and that 3 hours long, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, you gotta go to the bathroom, like, right after that movie, or else you're, like, you're gonna piss yourself. I guarantee it, because that movie was so, it meant just sitting in theater for 3 hours, and then not going to the bathroom, because I didn't go to the bathroom throughout the entire thing, and I went as soon as I got out of the theater, and plus we were in the front, like, the very front, and had to look up, like, 24/7, and that kind of gave me a cramp in my neck, but still, it was fantastic. So, yeah, we should go ahead and get started, because, I really want to get into this review, because I want to rant about it. I want to rant about this movie so bad because of how good it was. And, okay, so the first thing, we'll go ahead and get right into it. So, again, spoiler warning, do not watch this video if you have not seen this movie. Alright. So the movie basically starts off at the scene that you've seen in the trailer with Tony Stark and Nebula in the Milano, which is the Guardians of the Galaxy ship, if you did not already know. You go ahead, you get to see them doing all the thing. He sends the message to Pepper Potts that you've seen in the that you've seen in the trailer, and yeah, you see all that, and then eventually Captain Marvel goes and saves them. So people were thinking it was going to be Pepper Potts in the rescue armor. We'll get around to that later, but that's not what she does in this movie. So Captain Marvel goes around through space and sends them, and at the Captain Marvel, I haven't seen Captain Marvel yet, but I know the end credit scene. The end credit scene of Captain Marvel, she was talking to the Avengers, and they went and I guess since she was with them, they went and sent her to find Tony, since he was just adrift in space. But she saves them. She brings them all the way back to Earth. Tony and Pepper Potts reunite. Steve and Tony also reunite, and it's a very emotional moment that you get to see them actually working together for once. But the moment they get back, Tony is really, really traumatized and really upset because of specifically Spider-Man, as you see his death in Infinity War, because he didn't feel so good. But yeah, you see them all reunite, and Tony gets like really pissed and like really in a bitchy mood because of what happened, and he feels like there's no way to fix it. So that all happens, and then they go all the way to they track down Thanos, is what I'm needing to say. They track down Thanos because he used the stones recently, and when they go and track him down, they find out something very important. So what they did is they tracked him down to a certain planet I don't really name. I'll put the name of the planet on the screen if I can figure it out. But they went to find Thanos. Thanos was on that planet. He was in this farm, you know, the gardening scene, and with the scarecrow looking thing with his armor. They find him, and they find out he has used the stones again. Well, that he used the stones to destroy the stones. So therefore, it makes you think that nothing can be undone, and everything is. It makes you feel like that they're screwed, that they're actually not going to fix it, and because of that, that when Thor found that out, he chopped his head off. He chopped Thanos' head off, and Thanos does die. Thanos does die at this very moment, and when he dies at this very moment, there's no coming back for him. But they eventually go on back after they think they killed him. They figure out they still need to figure out a way to undo it. But and then it switches to another scene. So when it switches to the other scene, at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, you see Scott Lang get trapped in the quantum realm, and then Hope Van Dyne and Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne, they all suffer. They all don't feel so good. But yeah, you see that, and then a rat that it was in like a storage shelter where the van was, because the quantum realm thing is in the like brown ass van. But you see a rat, just a random rat in the storage room, actually activates the quantum realm and shoots Scott Lang back out of it. And Scott Lang in the quantum realm, it feels like 5 seconds. That you've been in there for like 5 minutes is what he said in the movie. But in real life, he was in there for a year or two, because like a year after what happened with Thanos, and he was looking for everybody. He didn't know what happened to Janet and everybody because he was in the quantum realm at the time. So when he gets shot back out, he goes and tries to find. He looks at the newspaper, as you saw in one of the trailers, and he goes and find his daughter. I think her name was Cassidy or something like that. Cassidy, I think one of those two. But she actually survives the snap, and they reunite. But then Ant-Man goes to the Avengers, which you saw in another trailer when he was like at the door waving through the security camera. But after he does that, and plus everything looks like crap. The whole town, the whole Manhattan looks like absolute shit because it's been deserted with 50% of the population. So, anyways, Scott Lang goes to the Avengers, and he talks to them. They're like, "Is this an old message?" As you saw in the trailer, and no, it's a security camera at the front gate. So he goes there. He explains to them, because he has a theory. He explains to them. Captain America and everybody explained to him what happened and how the stones got destroyed, because Thanos used the stones to destroy the stones. The stones committed "I don't feel so good." But then Scott Lang has a theory. Now this theory basically leads on to the whole point of the movie. This theory that he has is that they can use the quantum realm to shrink it down so small that and then come out of the quantum realm at a different period in time. And then they think he's crazy because it's a time machine. Like you can't invent time travel. But in this case, since it's a superhero movie, they actually eventually do. So as you can see in one of the trailers and the movie, of course, you see all their quantum realm suits that help them go into the quantum realm without which makes them shrink with the Pym particles. And what they do is, sorry, I'm like really sick right now. My nose is stopped up and all that. But they have the quantum realm suits. Ant-Man explains everything, and Iron Man eventually actually no, this was 5 years later. 5 years later, after when he gets shot out, everybody is like doing their own thing. I need to take a break for what I was saying. I went too far ahead. Captain America is leading just like a something similar to like a group, something similar to what Kurt has in The Punisher, just kind of like with the war veterans. But eventually, in this period in the movie, first of all, while he's talking to everybody, he's trying to get them to stop grieving and knowing what to do next. One of the Russo brothers, which is the directors of Avengers Endgame, I think it was Joe, and Joe Russo made a cameo. It was either Joe or his brother, but he made a cameo in the movie, which I thought was really, really cool, because if you get to see the director in like the end of it all, you might as well throw the director cameo in there. But yeah, they're talking, and then you see his cameo. I put a picture up on the screen of what Joe Russo looks like, so you can tell if you see the movie. If you don't know what he looks like, you should if you've seen all the Marvel movies. But yeah, you see him. He gets his cameo, and 5 years later, Iron Man actually has a daughter and is married to Pepper Potts, and they have a home. They have a family, and he's still missing Spider-Man. He's still grieving about everything, but he has his family to make up for that, and he feels like he has moved on. And also his daughter could turn into Ironheart, which is a character from the comics I'll put up on the screen. Ironheart is just I don't know if it's Iron Man's daughter in the comics, but it could be a lead on to that. And Pepper Potts also his daughter visits Tony while he was talking to everybody else, and well, no, they were just messing around outside, I'm pretty sure. And she was wearing the helmet, the rescue helmet that Tony is making for Pepper as a birthday gift or anniversary gift, something like that, some type of gift. But they did that, and that just leads on to the rescue suit in the later part of the movie. But after that, it's 5 years later, so the Avengers, after Scott Lang comes to them, they go to visit Tony and ask if he can help this time, because last time he wasn't really there yet. But they helped him. He denied them. He denied them at that moment, and then they actually ended up having to wait more because Tony was delaying them on what they can do. But Tony, and they didn't really know how to do it either. They tested it, but Tony denied it. So Tony eventually actually got it to work. So Tony, in this movie, Iron Man invented time travel. So he figured out time travel. He found out how it can work. But so he ends up going back to them and brings Captain America a new shield. It's the same exact shield. It's just, I'm pretty sure it's not vibranium, which we will go into a theory later on in this video. But after that, they go to he goes to them. He gives Cap his shield, and everything's going well. And also they go and meet Bruce Banner, because Bruce Banner's been gone for 5 years. And at this point in time, Bruce Banner is Professor Hulk, which everybody was thinking it was going to do it because since of leaked things and stuff. But they actually did do Professor Hulk in this movie. And if you don't know Professor Hulk in this scenario and in the comics is just Hulk's body, but Bruce Banner's mind. So he's actually smart enough to know what decisions to make and smart enough to know what to do in certain situations. So he helps with everything as well. So when they go back, they start it up. They get their quantum realm suits, and they start to go. They do a test run with Hawkeye, and actually no, that's not how the beginning of the movie started off with Hawkeye. I'm so all over the place. It's hard to remember since I saw it so long ago. Well, today, yeah, so all over the place. I'm sorry, but what I'm saying is kind of out of order. But if you see the movie, you will understand. But yeah, since Hawkeye's family died in the finger snap, so he became Ronin. Now, Ronin is also a character in the comics that it's just Hawkeye, except with a different name, and not Ronin with an A, Ronin. So Ronin with an A would be the Guardians of the Galaxy villain, but then Ronin is actually Hawkeye. So he does still have his bow, but he's also more of like a ninja. So he went around murdering people for no reason, because he was going through like some phase or something like that, and Black Widow eventually finds him. And when Black Widow finds him, he brings them back with them and convinces him to do so. So, and when they get back, I'm all over the place. I'm a little bit all over the place, but it's main point. They start the quantum realm. They actually Hawkeye volunteers to go first, and they send him back in time. No, yeah. Hawkeye goes, and they test it. He goes back and almost sees his wife again, or his daughter again, but then they bring him back before he could see it, which was kind of sad. But they did go ahead and do that. So they tested it. It worked eventually. First, before Iron Man helped out, they tested it with Scott Lang, and he became like a baby and an old man for like no reason in the present time. So they messed around with time a little bit, which was kind of funny. But they fixed it. So after that, they went to Hawkeye. They did the test run. Then they all get their quantum realm suits, which you can see in the trailer. They're all quantum realm suits, and they end up going back in time using the quantum realm to gather the stones and bring them to the present so that they can use the stones and undo all of this. And Tony, Scott, and Steve, they go to the Battle of New York in, I think it was 2012, where during the first Avengers movie, they go to that. No, yeah, Bruce was with them too. They go to that, and they end up trying to get the stones back. So Tony and Scott are going towards the Tesseract because they beat Loki at this point. They end up getting the Tesseract, but they do end up they lost it a couple times, and then they had to get it back and all that. But and that didn't work. They ended up not getting it at that point, but they get it later on, which I'll explain in just a second. But Hulk goes and gets the Time Stone during the Battle of the New York with from the Ancient One. So at this point, they know Doctor Sorcerer Supreme, any Doctor Strange character can forward time, of course, with the Time Stone, and they can see alternate realities. For example, the Ancient One. So the Ancient One did make a cameo in this movie and was actually very useful. And she saw the alternate reality. She saw what was going on and everything else. So she ends up giving the Time Stone to Bruce Banner. So they get the Time Stone. They have the Time Stone. That's number one. Check. Now they go ahead and then they try to get... And they got Loki's scepter. Captain America is going to get Loki's scepter. And they confiscated it from... Brock Rumlow or Crossbones confiscated the scepter, and they eventually they confiscated the scepter, and then Captain America goes and tries to get it back, saying there's a change of plans. And at this point in time, since they were from the future, they know that that Brock Rumlow and all those other people were undercover Hydra agents posing as S.H.I.E.L.D. So Captain America, in order to gain their trust, fakely whispers "Hail Hydra" in one of the agent's ears. But he's not actually Hydra. There is an alternate storyline with Hydra Captain America, where everything is Hydra. But Hydra and Captain America is actually Hydra as well. But then he just did it undercover, so therefore he can gain their trust. So he gets Loki's scepter, but he ends up running into himself in that same time period. So Captain America ends up fighting himself. He beats him, and he gets Loki's scepter. He gives Loki's scepter to Ant-Man, and Ant-Man just has to bring that back. So therefore, there's the Mind Stone, since the Mind Stone was created after a part of the Tesseract due to Vision. But then they went... since the Tesseract failed, and they couldn't get the Tesseract, Tony and Steve go back further to during World War II with Captain America and Howard Stark. So Iron Man ends up talking to his own father in the past, but he makes it so Howard Stark doesn't know that's his son. He says his name is also Howard. He said Tony Stark faked as, but he said his name is also Howard. But then he said Potts. It's just Pepper Potts. He made up a name. But they did that. He ended up talking to his dad for a while. He met him and learned a little bit about his dad. Since Bucky killed his parents, he didn't know much about his dad, and so he got to meet him. And Captain America was busy. So they got the Tesseract. And Captain America, he was basically just walking around figuring stuff out. He did see Peggy Carter at this moment, so he got a good glimpse of his memories where he got to see Peggy Carter again. But he ended up having to go back, and they got the Tesseract. That's 3 check. So they're done. They go back, and even though having to leave the people they love again, they go back in order to fix all this. And on the other and then other people, so Nebula and War Machine, I think it was just them two, those two at this point. These are happening at the same time. I'm just going over them in different portions. Nebula and War Machine go to the first Guardians of the Galaxy time period where Star-Lord was getting the Power Stone from whatever his name is, the third sibling of Thanos. But because it's not just Nebula and Gamora, if you didn't already know that. But they ended up getting the Power Stone, but Nebula kind of screws it up a little bit. So since past Nebula and future Nebula are in the same area, they're not in the same area, but they're in the same time period together. They end up knowing because Nebula is part robot. So they end up finding out. So Thanos and Gamora, who are bad at this point, Gamora and Nebula are evil at this point. They go and find out that there's another Nebula, and they were very confused. But eventually, and then they're talking like they were from the future, because Nebula was talking to War Machine, and she gives the Power Stone to War Machine. War Machine takes it back, but Nebula is stuck there. So when Nebula is stuck there, they end up capturing Nebula. So Nebula captures Nebula, and Gamora captures Nebula. But it's really confusing at first. Unless you know Marvel, it's really hard to understand. But Thanos figures out that this is from the future, so Thanos knows that they are going back to undo what he is planning to do in the past. So when they do that, and then it goes back. So she's stuck there, and War Machine has the Power Stone, so that's 4 check. But there is that problem. So on the other hand, the Soul Stone. The Soul Stone. This is where the depression happens. So Hawkeye and Black Widow go up to Red Skull again, same place, and with the Soul Stone, Vormir. They go to Vormir, and they end up figuring out how Gamora died and how they had to get the Soul Stone. So if at this point in time, someone has to be sacrificed. And this person who sacrificed is actually Black Widow. And it was really, really depressing. Some people would have chosen Hawkeye, but Hawkeye just got reintroduced because he was gone for a little bit, and he wasn't in the last movie. But Black Widow ends up running off the cliff and sacrifice of herself in order to get the Soul Stone for Hawkeye. And it was really, really depressing. And since Black Widow is getting her solo movie, that movie is going to be a completely past tense flashback. So unless they can fix this, she is dead for now, and hopefully they can find a way to undo that, because Black Widow is a great character. She's one of the main Avengers, and she has a great origin as well. But yeah, she had to sacrifice herself in order to get the Soul Stone. So sadly, Soul Stone is checked. But well, that's not sad, but you know what I meant. So yeah, they got that. Time Stone check, Power Stone check, Space Stone check, Mind Stone check, and Soul Stone check. They got Reality Stone. Next is the Reality Stone. So in this point in time, Thor and Rocket, and at this point, since it's 5 years later, Thor actually has his hair back. But there's a downside to this. Thor has his hair back, and it's this. I'll put it up on the screen. It's a version of Thor with it's a picture with Stormbreaker. It's Thor, but he has like long Aquaman. He looks like New 52 or Rebirth Aquaman, or whichever one it is, with the long blonde beard and the hair. But this is kind of a problem, but it's not as bad. Thor is very fat, and there's plenty of memes of thick Thor, as they're calling it. It's actually hilarious. But he ends up being 5 years later after this, since he feels like he failed, even though he won. They're at New Asgard, and he eventually New Asgard is just Asgard on Earth, basically, and he ends up being this like fat, Big Lebowski hillbilly, looking like a hippie. But yeah, and Tony Stark actually compares him to the Big Lebowski, so it's actually really funny. But yeah, he's just fat as shit. Like, he's fat as fuck. But it's really not that bad, because that version of Thor with the Stormbreaker and that picture I just showed you is actually, my bad on that, is actually like supposed to be big. But instead of like a buff big, they gave him like a fat big. But it's kind of in between. But it's still really cool. So they're getting the Reality Stone. So Thor, meanwhile, actually no, Korg. Something about Korg. Korg and Meek are still alive. Basically, they were just playing Fortnite the whole time. So this whole time, Korg and Meek were just in New Asgard playing Fortnite. And since it's kind of a joke, because Avengers Endgame, there's going to be Thanos and Captain America Shield and all that in Fortnite. So that was really funny to me. So they were just playing Fortnite the whole time. And so yeah, they did that. And so now back to this. Thor and Rocket are getting the Reality Stone. Thor is really happy to see his mother again, because his mother died in Thor: The Dark World, but he gets to see her again, and he's really, really happy, but he doesn't know if he can do it, so he keeps like wandering off all over the place. And so that happens, and they talk, and apparently his mother was a witch at one point, so she knows he's from the future. She gets it, she understands, she trusts him. But so yeah, that happens, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to get the ether out of, which is the reality stone, out of Jane Foster, because she touched the stone in Thor: The Dark World, and she needed to get they needed to get that out of her, and Rocket had this device that could do that. So Thor was supposed to distract his mom and Jane Foster, while Rocket went and shanked her with the device so they can get the ether. They eventually did that, but also at this point, Thor brings his hammer. He gets his hammer from that point in time and brings it to the future. So at this point, he has Stormbreaker and Mjolnir to actually wield at the same time, which I'll talk about later. But so yeah, they get the reality stone and they head back also with Thor's hammer. So you get 2 for 1. But so they got all the stones so far. They go back and they test they test their own Infinity Gauntlet. So and they test it with Hulk, Professor Hulk, since he is more in control now and he knows what to do. So they test it with they make a nanotech Infinity Gauntlet that can wield the Infinity Stones, and they work it with Hulk. Hulk ends up getting like kind of burnt because he used the power, but he could only do it for like a couple of seconds. So he snapped. He snapped and reversed everything. But yeah, so they reversed everything, and Hulk actually got the Infinity Gauntlet, and they reversed it. They reversed everything, so everything seems well. But then at this point, at this very moment, Thanos comes to the future, and Thanos nukes the shit out of the Avengers base. He just blows it to hell, and they all get trapped underground and everything. And Hawkeye's fighting some Outriders. Hulk and Ant-Man and everybody are trying to get out. Everybody's trying to get out. Captain America, but at this point, Captain America, Thor, Thick Thor, I should say, and Iron Man are about to face up against Thanos. So technically they're fighting past Thanos, not future Thanos. So it's really confusing. They need so they're not fighting. So present Thanos is already dead. They just need to pass Thanos now because he can come back at any time apparently. So they do that, and when they're fighting, it's so awesome. Like, you can't argue how awesome this moment is. So Thor is using his lightning with Stormbreaker and Mjolnir at the same time, and Iron Man is all doing the Cap has his shield. They're all fighting against Thanos, and they do that. And Thanos also has his butter knife at this point, which is what people refer to that sword as. Butter knife. He has his butter knife, and he doesn't have the Infinity Gauntlet at this point because he didn't make it till Infinity War. So this happens. So he does. They fight him, and as soon as Thor is like getting beat to shit, he tries to force back Stormbreaker, and Stormbreaker goes to him, but Thanos catches it and then tries to force it and stab him through the heart. But as Thor did in Avengers Infinity War. But at that moment, this is where the shit gets real. So you see Mjolnir start to float. It's custom Mjolnir floating, and then just flies back, and then Captain America catches it. So we all knew that Captain America was somewhat worthy. So he actually lifts Thor's hammer in this movie and uses it. So and this would make sense since he held up the Infinity Gauntlet in Avengers Infinity War, and that would make sense because he would if he's worthy of wielding it as his guardian weapon, which is and Infinity Gauntlet and Mjolnir and Stormbreaker are made out of the heart of a dying star. They're all made out of the same thing, so he was able to hold that back, which makes sense. And now, as Stormbreaker doesn't have the same rules, Stormbreaker is helpful as well. But yeah, he does that. They actually do that. He hits him with the shield. It's so dope. And this also explains in Age of Ultron how he scooted the hammer. Because remember, in Age of Ultron, he was scooted. They were all trying to lift Thor's hammer, and he scooted it. He actually scooted it. So that was a little Easter egg till this movie. So he lifts it. He does so much badass stuff. It was so lit. Like, he threw his shield up in the air and then chucked Mjolnir at it, and then it was gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous. So that happens, and eventually, after with all the fighting, Captain America goes up against Thanos alone, and Thanos cracks Captain America's shield. Now, this is a lot different from the comic book. And the comic book, Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, backhands the shield, and then the shield cracks in half. But in this is different. In the movie, it's a slightly different. And he still cracks it, but he does it repeatedly with the butter knife. And the only reason he could do this with the butter knife, he would have to use the Infinity Gauntlet if the shield was vibranium. So what I'm thinking is that since Iron Man had to make a new shield, and he never met Black Panther, so that shield that he gave Captain America is not vibranium, but it still helps. So he ended up cracking that shield with the butter knife since it's vibranium. If it was the butter knife against a vibranium shield, that would have been a different story. But so he ended up cracking Captain America's shield. But Captain America also used Mjolnir, so he was actually okay at this point. But yeah, so that was facing off, and in the meantime, everybody's coming. So Thanos gets his army, he gets everybody. Ebony Maw is there, so is Black Dwarf or Call Obsidian, and everybody's there. Proxima Midnight. You didn't get to see much Proxima Midnight in this movie. Corvus Glaive is there. So, and then this scene is the most epic scene out of the whole movie. This final battle is the most lit you will ever see. It reminds me of something out of Lord of the Rings with a bunch of armies just fighting all at once. It was so much CGI you had to do. It was gorgeous. But you see that they're all prepared, and then you see Captain America all alone, just standing against that huge ass army. But then you see a portal open behind him. You see a Doctor Strange portal open behind him, and you see T'Challa, Black Panther, walk out of that portal. And they only knew this was going on right now because Doctor Strange forwarded time and figured out what was going on. I think that's how that went. But Black Panther, he goes out, he goes to jail, and then you just see so many portals open, all of them. You see everybody that passed away back, except for the people that actually got beaten to death. So the people that because they could only bring back people with the snap using the Infinity Gauntlet, they could only bring back the people that actually died using that. So you see Black Panther, you see Okoye, or Michonne for The Walking Dead. She's the same actor, but oh well. You see her and some other people. I'm thinking Maku, so Man-Ape. And you see them. And then everybody else can start coming out. You see every single trainee, every single sorcerer from the sanctums, from all the sanctums. You see a bunch of Wakandan soldiers that die. You see, and you see some of the new Asgardians. So Valkyrie is there. Korg and Meek, I don't really think we're in this battle. They're probably still playing Fortnite. But yeah, that happens, and this is this huge ass war that gets to happen. And then you see Pepper Potts with the rescue suit helping out as well. So she's there, everybody's there. Ant-Man busts out of the ground as Giant Man with Hulk and War Machine and Rocket in his hand, and he lets them down to the ground. And at this moment, it is just so lit. Like, this is the most lit anything. There's no movie I can compare to this movie. But you go ahead and see that, and this battle just goes on for like basically the rest of the movie. So everybody's fighting, everything's going well. Giant Man punches one of those giant things from the first Avengers movie in the face. He punches that, and everybody's just battling, and it's so glorious. And everybody, I'm losing my place of thought. I'm just remembering how awesome it was to see in a theater as well. But everybody's fighting, and then you see Captain Marvel enter. So Captain Marvel had some screen time in this movie, as in the beginning, and some other things. But Captain Marvel enters, and she has a haircut at this point. So at this point, Captain Marvel has her haircut. And this is so accurate, because in the comics, she's supposed to have a haircut. There's a picture on the screen right now for a comparison between her haircut in the movie and in the comic books. And I have a comic book with that certain hairstyle that is actually really accurate. So it is accurate, and my bad on that. It is accurate, and it looks really good. But, and yeah, she helps out a lot. She goes up against Thanos, she grabs the Infinity Gauntlet that Thanos is trying to get. So at this whole point in the battle, Thanos is trying to get the nanotech Infinity Gauntlet so he can use it, since he doesn't have the Infinity Gauntlet of his own right now. So that's happening, and everybody's still battling. Everything is still going on, and Captain Marvel is trying to get Thanos. So at this point, you see Thanos is versing off everybody. I'm just losing my place. It's kind of hard to remember for some reason, but surprisingly, I should say. But so Captain Marvel's flying with the Infinity Gauntlet. She's trying to get it away from him. Everybody's trying to get away from him. But at this point, Thanos grabs it from Captain Marvel. He gets it from Captain Marvel. He puts the gauntlet on, and you see, this is the cliffhanger right here. He snaps. Thanos snaps once again, but it does nothing. It does absolutely nothing. And you see, and then after he does that, he flips over the gauntlet, and all the stones are gone. Every single stone in that gauntlet was gone. And then you see Iron Man right next to him with the Infinity Stones, because Iron Man put this thing on his hand, with the Infinity Stones going up into his own gauntlet on his own suit. So Iron Man actually did it. Iron Man is wielding the Infinity Stones, but since he's only a normal human, he has to die. So it's really sad. I'll explain all of it. So Iron Man, he gets it. He snaps his fingers. He snaps the hell out of them. He blows them all away. All of Thanos' army, everything, Thanos, Corvus Glaive, Ebony Maw, Proxima Midnight, they all fade away. They all fade away. So they fade away, but Iron Man dies because he's only a normal human. Captain America, he could probably wield 2 stones, but Iron Man wielding all of them, that would kill him because he's just a normal human. So that actually killed Iron Man. And this is the point of the movie where everybody is sad because Iron Man dies. So there's no more Iron Man in the MCU. Unless they throw in Ironheart or Pepper Potts as the new Iron Man, there's no more of Robert Downey Jr. in this series, which is really, really depressing. But it was still dope. But anyways, even though he died, he went out like a badass. You cannot argue with that. He went out so godly that it was just gorgeous. He specifically, as he snapped the fingers, he said something, and then his last words were, "I am Iron Man." The same thing he said in the freaking first movie. It was so glorious scene. Even though he passed away, it was glorious, and he went out like a boss. So he snaps the fingers, Thanos fades away, everybody fades away, so they killed past Thanos, so this means Thanos never got the Infinity Gauntlet and all the stones in the first place. So Thanos, all Thanos' armies is dead, and they won, but in sacrifice of Iron Man. So at this point in the movie it's been like, it's almost done, it's almost at the 3 hour mark, and then you see, after the whole battle, they have a funeral for Iron Man and everything. But when they at the funeral, everybody's there. People are there, and actually Harley from Iron Man 3, the kid with the potato gun, actually is at that funeral. So he is there. He's all grown up and everything. You could tell it was him specifically, but he's there. Everybody's there, and they have a huge funeral for Iron Man. And they do that thing where we have flowers and you set them off in the river, but they did it where they had a bouquet of flowers, but then it said proof that it had that memorial of proof that Tony Stark has a heart on the flowers. It was depressing, but it was so glorious. But during the fight, also Spider-Man joins back with Tony Stark, and he gives him the biggest hug you can ever see. So that was really meaningful as well. And it reminds me of Spider-Man Homecoming, where he's like, "Oh, this is not a hug." I was like, "Oh well," he gave him that hug. He actually gave him that hug, and it was very, very meaningful to everybody. But after that, after Tony Stark dies, they have the funeral. Everything is back to normal. Everything is perfect. Every creature is back. Every human is back. That with the Infinity Gauntlet. But yeah, they have his funeral, and at this point, at the end of the movie, Captain America goes back in time again using the quantum realm and he was going to come right back. He uses he also had Thor's hammer with him to return back to the time so they don't screw up the timeline. But he goes back with Thor's hammer and the quantum realm suit, and he goes back to visit Peggy Carter. He actually visits Peggy Carter, and in the quantum realm, if you go back in time, it feels different. It feels longer to you in the quantum realm, but in the present day, it feels like 5 seconds or 5 minutes. So Captain America actually stayed in the past for 100 years. So when he returned to the present, he was 200 years old. Since he's a super soldier and he got frozen in the ice, he ended up being 200 years old in present day. And the reason for this, Tony Stark told him that he should find his own way. He should find a life, a good, meaningful life, other than all this that he has to go through every day. And he goes with Peggy Carter. Every at the end of the movie, he goes to Peggy Carter, and he comes back to visit everybody, and he gives Sam Wilson his shield. So in this case, you're gonna get next Captain America, Sam Wilson Captain America. Most people are arguing, including me, that Bucky should have been Captain America, but there is Sam Wilson and Bucky Captain America, but people tend to like Sam Wilson better. Plus, he gave him to Sam Wilson, so Sam Wilson is now Falcon Captain America, as you can see in the comics, that is an actual thing. But yeah, and then Captain America goes back. He goes back to the past. He's living in the past. So Captain America is not living in the present anymore. He's living in the past with Peggy Carter, and it cuts to the scene where you see a house, and you see Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers getting that dance that they never got to in the Captain America: The First Avenger. That was so meaningful. It was so heartwarming. So you see them dancing, and I'm not crying right now. It's still, my nose is stuffed up. I guarantee you, I'm not crying. But yeah, you see them having their dance, and then it cuts back to everything else. So at this point, the movie is basically over, and that you see, that's basically how it ends. You see him having his dance. You see him being what he wanted to be in the first place, in the past with his girlfriend that he loved dearly. So it's really beautiful sight to see. So at this point, the movie is basically over. Everybody is beaten, and there's really not much I really need to say. Besides, it was a fantastic and meaningful movie that everybody, I agree, whether you're a superhero fan or not, should see this movie, since it's a big moment in everything that they've done in the past 10 to 11 years. So yeah, and this movie was actually, it was depressing, but it was also very, very meaningful. So if you make sure you guys go and see Avengers Endgame, there's no doubt to anybody that should not like this movie. Nobody should not like this movie. This movie is so good, especially for 3 hours. If it was, it would not. We need to expect that it would be good, since it's fucking 3 hours, and they proved to us, just as it is, they proved to us that 3 hours is worth seeing this movie. So yeah, if you guys, this video was just an overview of the movie. I'm not really gonna go over many theories or Easter eggs. Maybe I'll do that in another video. But yeah, you get to see Captain America having his dance, and everything ends well. So this is, there's also some TV shows that are coming soon, which I'll discuss probably in another video. But yeah, so yeah, I'm really hoping you guys enjoyed this video, because Avengers Endgame is so special to me, and it should be special to all of you guys as well. So make sure to like and subscribe to this video, and I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure to go see this movie. I guarantee you it will be worth it. One last thing for this video that I forgot, which is the shout out. So the answer to the last question was Spider-Man. I would have accepted Moon Knight as well, because they're basically about the same. So the shout out goes to Driven Lion 342. Again, he's gotten a shout out plenty of times. So has Batman BA. But anyways, thanks for being a great fan, and I hope to continue to see you help me support my channel. And also, the question is on the screen right now.